tonight, can the Prime Minister survive a police investigation into Partygate and further revelations, this time a birthday bash for Boris in Downing Street?
The outcome of the parliamentary investigation could be imminent. Also making the headlines, the partying after lockdown. Nightclubs reopening signal the start of the new normal.
I just want to dance. Yes, yeah. Well, that's what we're most excited for, like being with our friends, having a dance, like just being around the music and everything.
In sports, tributes are paid to the former Celtic manager Wim Jansen, who has died at the age of 75.
And it's Burns Night. We find out what today's youngsters think it's all about. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. The Metropolitan Police are to investigate allegations of parties at Downing Street during lockdown. The Prime Minister has welcomed the decision. Boris Johnson told MPs he thinks this will give the public the clarity it needs and will draw a line under the matter.
Mr Johnson continues to insist he has done nothing wrong. The investigation by the senior civil servant Sue Gray will continue, but it's unclear when her report will now be published. Our Westminster correspondent Catherine Sampson has the latest.
Iris Donaldson enjoys visits from her daughter to her care home in Kirkcaldy, but back in June 2020 she had to celebrate turning 87 apart from her family, just watching from her window.
I mean, birthdays you want to try and make special anyway. Oh gosh, I'm away already. But that one was awful because we couldn't be there. We couldn't hug her. She was having to hang out a window to see us because we were outside singing happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday to you.
A few days later, the Prime Minister was serenaded on his birthday, first on this school visit, but then it's claimed a few hours later inside number 10. Downing Street has admitted staff gathered briefly in the Cabinet room. Today, as Cabinet met, things took another dramatic turn.
I can confirm that the Met is now investigating a number of events that took place at Downing Street and Whitehall in the last 2 years in relation to potential breaches of COVID-19 regulations.
It's unclear which exact events will be covered, but the anger in the Commons was plain to see.
Potential criminality has been found in Downing Street. What a truly damning reflection on our nation's very highest office.
How much more personal humiliation and indignity will the Prime Minister be prepared to endure? But perhaps more importantly, how much more of this embarrassing circus are his colleagues prepared to tolerate before they act to remove this man from office?
I now call the Prime Minister.
I welcome the Met's decision to conduct its own investigation because I believe this will help to give the public the clarity it needs and help to draw a line under matters.
Strong support today from some of his backbenchers.
When Europe stands on the brink of war and there is a cost of living crisis, can we please have a sense of proportion over the Prime Minister being given a piece of cake in his own office?
But at Holyrood, the mood among Conservative MSPs is rather different.
For the Prime Minister to have said repeatedly that he was not aware of any parties, he didn't go to any parties, to have in the last couple of weeks accepted that there maybe were events that could be seen by some as parties and he was there, and now for the police to be investigating, it's not a comfortable place for the Prime Minister to be.
We're used to seeing police protecting Downing Street, not investigating it. How long will Conservative MPs be prepared to wait for their conclusions?
So, Catherine, where does this police investigation leave the report by senior civil servant Sue Gray?
Well, this is a very good question because really this has been all over the place today. First, we thought that the Sue Gray investigation would have to be paused because of this fresh police probe. Then we were told, no, it could still be published, but only in parts, the parts the police weren't choosing to look into. And now we seem to be getting told, no, the full report can be published. And there are reports that this could be imminent. It could come before Prime Minister's questions in the Commons. That's at midday tomorrow. It could even come as soon as tonight. And this really matters because, as you have heard over the weeks gone by, MP after MP saying they are waiting for this report before they make the decision about whether they put in a letter to that powerful backbench committee that can choose to have a confidence vote in the Prime Minister, that can act to oust a Prime Minister. Until then, we're still in a sort of limbo as this drip feed of stories come out with no guarantees that more evidence isn't yet to emerge.
All right, Catherine, you'll keep us up to date. Thanks very much.
Well, back to current restrictions, and yesterday the final barriers to near normality were lifted. Nightclubs reopened and pubs and restaurants were able to remove table service.
Limits on indoor events have also ended, which means the show will go on for theatres and music venues. Our reporter Polly Bartlett spent the night on the town to gauge reaction.
Thank you so much for waiting for 2 years for this show.
Gigs in Scotland are back.
It was a close call even this time.
The easing of restrictions celebrated under the neon glow of the Barrowland Ballroom. This concert by Canadian musician Caribou had already been rescheduled twice. In the lead up to the event, there was still uncertainty over whether it would go ahead.
It feels amazing to be here. We realised that we bought the ticket back in late 2019, couldn't even find the ticket, finally popped up, and once I found it, I'm like, yes, I'm going, can't wait.
I felt like in the autumn when we kind of started to reopen, things still felt a little bit uncertain, whereas now I do feel like there's more promise, and the fact that this is a full venue tonight and everybody has come out, there doesn't seem to be a drop-off on ticket sales. I really feel like now we've turned a corner, and I hope that's the case.
Also returning with a bang, nightclubs. These partygoers couldn't wait a minute longer for their first steps on the dance floor. More steps towards normality.
I just want to dance. Yes, yeah. Well, that's what we're most excited for, like being with our friends, having a dance, like just being around the music and everything.
It can be so isolating, like at home, just being by yourself, especially when you come like for the uni experience and things like that to meet new people. It's just really hard to do sometimes when you're by yourself. So it's nice to get out and like meet new people as well.
I think being with your friends and like sharing the experience, and obviously the drinks help a lot, but just the music and everything.
You can't like replicate it in a pub. It needs to be the music,
exactly,
the friends, the drinks.
Well, the party atmosphere is certainly building here at Pub Club in Glasgow. Mondays aren't usually their biggest night of the week, but there was no way these pubbers were waiting another night to get back on the dance floor. But while it's back to business this evening, bosses here say the most recent round of restrictions have been some of the toughest yet.
I think this time it was particularly frustrating because obviously you know that it's not the same rules throughout the UK and that there's other nightclubs down south and all that open, and also the fact that we've been living with the vaccine passport now since mid-October, and part of the whole reason for us having that was hopefully that we could stay open and keep going through difficult times, but then the first thing happens and we're shut down again, so it was pretty disappointing to be honest, but we're here now.
These punters were able to order at the bar again in pubs.
Usually we would expect most of our customers to be at or near the bar, mingling, enjoying themselves, talking to each other. So we've gone from, on a Friday pay weekend, we would maybe fit 100 people in if they're all friends. With 13 tables, we're down to about 33 customers, so about a third of our top level of custom. So there were some times we were just open, we weren't making money.
The busy streets were a welcome sight for the wider nighttime economy.
This helps a lot for the business when you are in a city centre of the town. So without nightclub, there is no business.
So, but the last few weeks were very quiet, so hopefully pick up in the last couple of weeks, next couple of weeks, sorry.
While this does seem like a return to some normality, there are still rules in place. Masks need to be worn around venues, although they can be taken off on the dance floor. After some of the darkest weeks for the industry, there is hope that these famous lights won't be dimmed again any time soon. Well, as you saw from my report just then, there was a real party atmosphere across town last night, and those celebrations are continuing this evening as theatres across Scotland reopen. I'm here at the King's Theatre in Glasgow, and in about an hour's time, Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 the musical will be taking to that stage. James Haworth, the theatre's director, joins me now. James, how excited are you about tonight?
Oh, incredibly excited and relieved, I have to say. Yeah, it's going to be a great night.
Panto is obviously one of your busiest times of year. The Christmas season especially is really busy for you. How tough were the last few weeks?
Oh, really tough. Like you say, it was the busiest time of year. We had so many people who were coming to the theatre at that particular time. The decision to close down again took us a wee bit by surprise, but we're very much focusing on sort of restarting again with a vengeance.
And tell me, how's the atmosphere been around the theatre today?
It's been a mixture of relief, because we're going again, but I would say more so excitement.
Well, you've obviously got a very busy night ahead of you, so I'll let you get on. You can really sense the excitement in this theatre today, and of course, theatres reopening across Scotland is great news for the wider industry, who've been working 9 to 5 to get these shows back on the stage.
Indeed. All right, thanks very much, Polly. And hot off the back of restrictions easing yesterday, the First Minister has updated the Scottish Parliament on a few more. As COVID case numbers fall, she says there should be a phased return to office working next month.
But Nicola Sturgeon is rejecting Conservative calls for an end to compulsory mask wearing in schools. Our political editor, Colin Mackay, was watching the statement. And Colin, what did the First Minister have to say?
Well, most of those restrictions, as you just heard from Polly, have been lifted, but now we're looking at offices. We're going to be moving from the guidance of working from home to hybrid working. A few days in the office, a few days at home. It will be left to staff and their bosses to try and work that out between them. The Chambers of Commerce have welcomed that freedom of choice on that. We're also seeing a cut in distancing at work from 2 metres to 1 metre, and adults who work with under 5 will no longer have to wear masks, but masks, as you say, will still be compulsory in secondary classrooms. That's what the Scottish Conservatives are desperate to see lifted. But the First Minister had a warning today that COVID cases among under 15s are soaring right now.
Throughout this pandemic, there has been agreement that children's education must come first. But right now, adults can sit in workplaces and pubs without face masks, but pupils in the classroom are still required to wear them.
Anyone with a degree of responsibility who, in face of what I have reported today, a 41% increases in cases in the under 15 age group, who says that this is the moment to say that young people no longer need to wear face coverings, frankly isn't showing responsibility.
COVID absences in school started rising again last week. 30,000 COVID-related absences on Friday alone. Now, most teachers are keen to, for the moment anyway, keep face masks in classrooms because they feel it gives them a bit of protection in their place of work. But it will be kept under review, and it's going to be there at least until the February break. So, in terms of Scotland's schools, on this Burns night, it's a case of fair fa your honest covered face.
Oh, I see what you did there, Colin. Thanks for that.
Now on to other stories across Scotland now, and a man from Edinburgh who took his own life after being accused of killing his mum would have been found guilty if the case had gone to trial. 3 High Court judges concluded the prosecution case against Sean Flynn was highly compelling. Louise Tiffany disappeared in 2002. Her body was found in East Lothian in 2017. Flynn fled after charges were brought against him for a second time. He was found dead in Spain last October.
Women who paid to have mesh implants removed privately can now claim the costs back from the Scottish Government. Hundreds of women in Scotland were left with painful, life-changing conditions after having the procedure to treat prolapse and bladder conditions. Holyrood has passed legislation to allow for reimbursements. Many women still say they are facing huge delays to have removals on the NHS.
And there is sufficient evidence supporting a ban on conversion therapy, the practices that attempt to change a person's sexual identity or gender. That's the finding by a group of MSPs. Despite concerns that religious practices could be impacted, the committee found there would be no conflict with religious freedoms and a ban being introduced. The Scottish Government say they'll bring in laws by the end of 2023.
Investigators have been unable to determine what started the Glasgow School of Art fire in 2018. Fire broke out at the world-renowned Macintosh building as it neared the end of a £35 million restoration project following a previous fire in 2014. Susan Ripple reports.
These images were taken by the fire service investigation team. It's the first time we've seen the true extent of the damage inside. So much was destroyed, including the fire warning system.
Because of the damage that was caused to the fire warning system control panel, we were unable to harvest any information from that, and any test records for the fire warning system, any notes of any faults that might have existed with the fire warning system, they were all lost in the fire as well. So again, very little evidence for us to go on in terms of anything definitive.
And because of that and other items destroyed, they've not been able to establish the cause of the blaze. Investigators have put together 3 broad hypotheses: that the fire may have been caused by willful fire raising. It could also have been an electrical fault or failure. Or it could have been caused by accidental ignition, by something like a cigarette.
At 19 minutes past 11, a security guard called 999. He'd seen flames after going to investigate noises that he'd heard. 6 minutes later, fire crews were on this scene, and it was just under 40 minutes later that half of the building was already alight.
Angela's flat looks directly onto the Macintosh building. She witnessed both fires.
It's very depressing, actually. It's stopped one of my neighbours selling her house. It's affected her financially. You'll just stare out the window and look at all the scaffolding. After all these years, it's a shame that they couldn't actually come up with something.
And it's upsetting for those who spent so much of their lives inside the building.
As a person who trained to be an architect in the building and then taught within it, it is very hard to even come and have a look at it again, because with the fire report being published, it brings back all the memories of what it could have been, and the fact that we could have still had that building had things been different.
Some fire experts are continuing to push for a public inquiry.
Let's understand all the chains of event, all the periphery information, any earlier deficiencies or notes of deficiency on this construction site, any failures by the project team or any correct moves by the project team and the client, any gaps, any errors, any omissions, any best practice that they did try but ultimately they couldn't save this building.
Glasgow School of Art wouldn't do any interviews today. A statement shows the governors are frustrated that the cause hasn't been identified and will take on recommendations for further construction projects. Susan Ripple, STV News, Glasgow.
Now Rahman is here with the sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst says Rangers are looking to sign a replacement for Yanis Hadji after the midfielder was ruled out for the rest of the season due to a knee injury. Hadji has undergone surgery. Van Bronckhorst says losing the midfielder is a big blow. It was early into Rangers' Scottish Cup tie against Stirling Albion when Yanis Hadji sustained a knee injury. It was feared the injury was a bad one. This was confirmed by Giovanni Van Bronckhorst.
Hadji needed an operation yesterday, so he was operated in London, and we won't have Yanis for the season. It's a big blow. We miss an important player is not available for the coming months. So we are looking to add a player to the squad.
Rangers are preparing to face Livingston in the league tomorrow. Last week, following their draw against Aberdeen, the Ibrox side wrote to the SFA, raising concerns over the performance of referee Kevin Clancy.
I think the most positive thing that can come forward is to make sure we learn from the decisions who are made and try to be better prepared for the coming games. So I think we should see it as a positive thing, because I think everyone in his profession will assess his performances. Myself as well as a coach, my players do it all the time. So I don't think it has to be different for referees.
Ryan Jack and Scott Arfield return to the squad for tomorrow's match, but Philip Helander and Stephen Davis remain on the sidelines. Ange Postecoglou has revealed he told his players not to go into challenges towards the end of the Scottish Cup tie against Alloa over fears they could get hurt. The Celtic boss says referee Don Robertson had lost control of the match, which saw Yusuke Iraguchi and Callum McGregor both go off with significant injuries. Ronnie Charters reports.
Yusuke Iraguchi faces an extended spell on the sidelines for this. The Alloa player Mohamed Niang has since been charged by the SFA, and the Celtic manager isn't happy.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I told some of the lads towards the end of the game to just not bother going into tackles, to just look after themselves, because I didn't want any more injuries, because I just didn't feel that there was control of that environment. Sometimes players are just reckless, but that doesn't mean that that's excusable. And we had a player who, got a serious injury. There's a couple of others who were lucky to escape from that, and that's why I was disappointed with the way the night panned out.
Postecoglou also confirmed that Callum McGregor will also be out long term after suffering a significant facial injury. With numbers short in midfield, new signing Matt O'Reilly could make his debut against Hearts tomorrow night.
Of course, it's not nice to see fellow teammates get injured, but yeah, it potentially does open doors for people like myself. If it does happen, then it happens, and I'll do my utmost to be ready, like I said, and help the team. So like I said, I feel like I'm ready to go physically and mentally. So if I'm needed, I think I'll be ready.
Ronnie Charters, STV News.
Now, he will forever be remembered as a Celtic legend. It's just one of the tributes being paid to Wim Jansen, who's died at the age of 75. The Dutchman was only Parkhead manager for one season in 1997, when he famously stopped Rangers winning 10 in a row and brought Henrik Larsson to the club. His assistant at the time, Murdo McLeod, says he'll never be forgotten by the Celtic support.
He's there for one season, but he's a Celtic great, because a manager coming in from nowhere and bringing in 10 or 11 new players to stop Rangers winning 10 in a row was just a fantastic achievement. Every player had so much respect for him, and he would, everyone would give their all for Wim Jansen.
Motherwell have announced the signing of French defender Victor Nyrenold on a deal until the end of the season. The news comes as the Steelmen prepare to take on Hibs in the Premiership tomorrow night. They have a chance to go 5 points clear of the Easter Road side.
It's about the points tally. That's what it is. There's a general target that we need to hit to finish in certain positions. So whoever we pick the points up against, that's what we have to try and do. So this is just the next challenge. That you don't get any extra points for beating teams around you.
And just got time to give you some rugby news. Matt Ferguson has signed a new contract with Glasgow Warriors. That is all the sport for me tonight, folks. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Sean's here with your Burns Night weather.
A cold snap is on the way. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, we've still got high pressure centred to the south of the UK over northern parts of France, where it's been stuck for weeks now. But the weather for us changing at times this week, because we're going to see low pressure coming in from the Atlantic, giving us some strong winds tomorrow, widely tomorrow, with rain, a bit quieter for a time Thursday, then Friday, another bout of strong winds coming in. So a fairly unsettled outlook for us. Now, I wish it was Burns Night 1984. We had that snow piled up in parts of Lanarkshire. But tonight, pretty quiet for most of us. rather nondescript. A lot of cloud around, some shower outbreaks of rain, temperatures 7 to 8 degrees Celsius, but for many of us should be largely dry. Now tomorrow morning, still quite a quiet start to the day, but you can see those wind arrows starting to come in from the Atlantic. Some shower outbreaks of rain across the Highlands, northern parts of Stirlingshire to start with, but for many of us dry, albeit rather cloudy to start with, and then we'll see heavier, more persistent rain developing across Argyll, the Highlands through the afternoon, and those winds strengthening, highs up to 10 or 11 degrees, so very mild for January. That's into low 50s in Fahrenheit. So strong and gusty winds into tomorrow evening, slowly easing down during Thursday, but swinging back round to a northerly. So we start to bring in that chillier air. But again, as I say all the time, a northerly is quite a good direction for us. A lot of dry and bright weather. It doesn't last long though. Friday we're back to rain and strong winds, but mild, and then turning a wee bit chillier once again later in the weekend. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels. Sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, as many of us across the country get ready to celebrate Burns Night tonight, we've been looking at what the younger generation make of Scotland's national bard.
From critiquing his work to reciting some of his most famous poems, not to mention giving their very clear thoughts on haggis, Laura Boyd has all that and more.
While a restored statue of Robert Burns was unveiled in Leith today, pupils at schools across Scotland have enjoyed a tartan-filled Tuesday in honour of the national bard.
I think children need to know about Scottish history. Robert Burns is Scotland's national poet, so I mean it's very, very relevant to the children.
Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June.
They enjoy the singing. Some of the songs they find a wee bit tricky, the words they find tricky. But we're actually doing a Scottish word week just now, and the word that we're doing just now is scunnered. So I hope they do enjoy it. I hope they're not scunnered.
Scunnered with Burns? Never. But just how much do these pupils really know about the bard?
He died at the age 37. He's got good poems. His house turned into a museum.
Robert Burns is like one of the most famous poets in the world.
Well, I've never met him before, obviously, but from what I know of him, I think it would have been cool to hang around with.
And will they be partaking in a plate of haggis, neeps and tatties tonight?
It's just, I think it's too chewy. I have spaghetti. I'm very excited for it. I love spaghetti. Well, I might have sausage and I might look up and sing My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose.
Well, that's certainly a unique take on a Burns supper, but mixing things up when it comes to the national dish is certainly popular at the moment. Fancy a haggis pint?
You do get the haggis notes through the spice, really good paired with food. A little bit spicy, as you would imagine, but really, really palatable. Yeah, it's really, really sessionable.
Or perhaps a haggis pancake is more up your street.
I do love it too. I'm not a Scottish person myself, but obviously I tried it too. It actually was very strange and like different combination. It's not the usual thing, but I really loved it.
Well, however you're celebrating Burns Night tonight, whether it be with a traditional supper or spicing it up with something a bit different, enjoy.
Well, we have some haggis beer here in the Edinburgh newsroom. John, if you like, we could maybe send some west.
You sure you never tried any of that before the programme? I can't actually have it. I've got Scotland tonight, but I'll maybe have it after that. But thank you for the
Such a professional.
Yes, and we're actually in Scotland tonight. We're going to be hearing about Burns Night being celebrated in Buenos Aires, of all places. So join us for that at 10:40. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Bye-bye.